one of us would hear from you, that you would touch our hearts and our minds with your love and your power. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Our patron Saint Francis, when he came to Christ and turned his life over to God, began to give away his father's possessions, thinking that that would be a good thing to help those who are in need. His father, needless to say, was not too pleased with his son. His father has worked his whole life to provide for his family and build up his business, and now Francis is giving it away, and so he confronts his son. And Francis said, "I go to serve God, and I leave all of this to you." And he left literally everything on the ground in front of his father, all of his clothing, and walked away from his father. I'm not going to ask you to do the same thing this morning. However, when we look at this parable that Jesus told today, we need to remember that Jesus told this parable about Lazarus and the rich man because he knew that the hearts of the people who were listening, at least some of the hearts, were hard. They had the appearance of righteousness, but he knew inside there was no love. And the interesting thing is, this is the only parable where Jesus gives a name to one of the people, Lazarus. I look at this parable and I call this an extreme comparison. Abject poverty, extreme wealth. And obviously what we see here is the wealthy man not caring, not helping and providing for Lazarus. If you would like, you can follow along with me and turn in your pew Bibles to page 1823. Page 1823. We are in 1 Timothy chapter 6, page 1823. And this is Paul's advice to Timothy, who is now pastoring a church. Verse 17, Paul says, "Command those who are rich in this present age not to be haughty, nor to trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who gives us richly all things to enjoy. Let them do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to give, willing to share, storing up for themselves a good foundation for the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life." Paul gave very clear instructions to his son in the faith, Timothy, to command his church to be generous and to give. And I can stand here today and do that same thing. I can urge you to give. I can use guilt to try and push you to give. And I know many pastors have done that. But then I know that if you give for those reasons, you're only giving to please me or out of a sense of duty, or just because you feel like you have to. That's not what God cares about. God cares about your heart. That was the point of today's parable. You see, God, his desire, his longing is for each one of us to return his love. Yes, I said return his love, because Scripture tells us very clearly he first loved us. And when we look at the life of Jesus, he loved us so much that he sent his son to die on the cross so he wants us to return the love that he's already showed to us. His great desire is that we would open our hearts to receive his love so that we can then return it. See, a lot of us struggle with a closed heart, a hard heart, as Jesus was trying to point out in today's gospel lesson. A heart that is closed, maybe because at some point in our past we were grossly hurt and so wounded that we closed it off, and we don't want anyone ever getting close to us again because we're afraid of getting hurt in that same way. But the truth is, God's love will never hurt us. God's love will never do anything to shame us or cause us embarrassment. He loves us. And it's out of that love, when his love is poured into our hearts, that we can then turn around and love those around us. It's then that we can give generously and freely of what he has blessed us with. And that is necessary. Now, society today is a little different than it was in Jesus' day. They didn't have Medicaid in Jesus' day, or welfare by the state. The Romans could have cared less if you starved on the side of the road. It was up to the church, the synagogues, it was up to the people of the village and the towns to care for one another, to look after one another. And we see that very clearly in the lives of the Christians, if you read the book of Acts. Today, I think it would be a very rare thing to walk along the side of a road anywhere in the United States and find someone who is literally starving to death. We have what we call safety nets in place for people to have at least the bare minimum of what they need to survive. The truth is, I was convicted of something recently when I was in the waiting room of a doctor's office, and I happened to pick up a National Geographic, and it was from 2014. It was a little while back. I was just flipping through, and there was an article on working poor people. In National Geographic, I was expecting pictures of bison and whatnot, And here's an article on people who are working but just can't make ends meet. So they're going to the local food pantries and whatnot. And that's reality today. People have jobs, but sometimes at the end of the month, the car breaks down, and the little bit of savings they had goes to repair the car, and now all of a sudden, they don't have enough food for their table. Or they've got to skip their rent payment, and then, you know what happens after that. That's the reality today. And it is something that our society talks about. You hear politicians talk about living wages and all those kinds of things. But the truth is, people still need help today. They might not be starving on the side of the road, at least here in the United States. But I know from personal experience, when my mother and I would get to the end of the month and there's literally $5 in her checking account, that life can be fragile financially. And so we are called to help. And so I'm delighted that St. Francis gives to ecumenical ministries every month for food for their pantry. Because I know it's going to people who need that food. When we give generously to help those who are in need, the church is a powerful witness to the world. They see the love of Christ in operation in the world. And then they know that God's love is in our hearts. And that's really what Jesus was trying to get across, that it's the love of God poured out into our hearts that then is poured out into the world and is a witness to the world. So I want to ask you a question. the love of God. He wants to come in and be your Lord. He wants to come in and be your Savior if you'll just open your heart and say yes. Most of you I know well, and I know you say yes. So this might be for a few of you that I don't know so well, and maybe need to hear this. I know that some of us, when that time comes and we're asked that question, you might be afraid. What's God going to do? How's my life going to change? Is suddenly I can't have any fun anymore? Whatever it is, you'll be so full of joy that the worldly pleasures can't hold a candle to. And God said right in our passage today that He has given us the world to enjoy. So He's not going to take that away from us. He wants us to enjoy His love in our lives, His love in our hearts. Are you ready to open your heart to God's love? Let us pray. Almighty God, I praise and adore you, Father, for your love, for the gift of your Son, Jesus Christ, dying on the cross and rising again for us. And I pray, Father, that each of us would open our hearts to your love, that we would be willing to allow you to come into our lives. Help us, Father, in our weakness, in our fear, to say yes to you.